Okay, Vicki, you're on.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone to our FFL class. That's Friends for Learning in Idaho Falls. Clock was distracting me. Okay. We would like to welcome Dian Thomas to give us a presentation about France. Dian Thomas was blessed with the good fortune to be born near and raised in the remote, breathtaking Santa La Salle National Forest, sorry, in southeastern Utah, where her father was a forest ranger. She took the skills she learned in the outdoors and turned them into a New York best-selling book called Roughing It Easy. Her appearance on the NBC Tonight Show with Johnny Carson boosted her into the national media scene, where she became a regular on NBC's Today Show for 8 years, and then on ABC's Home Show for 10 years. She was also a spokesperson for Procter & Gamble, Kraft Foods, Beef Industry, and Ocean Spray. After more than 35 years of media exposure and 19 books, she now shares her practical insights and wisdom with audiences who want to travel and enjoy the world. And I'm really excited to hear from this celebrity. And so everyone, be sure that you've got yourself muted. And most of us don't have the video on, the audio. And enjoy her presentation. And Diane will have a question and answer at the end, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Hooray! Whoopee! If you think you happen to smell charcoal burning, I came out of makeup and going upstairs to the office, and I said I thought something was on fire. It's because of our next guest. Her name is Dian Thomas, and she is a home economist at Brigham Young University, and the author of a book called Roughing It Easy. Are you any good at that kind of stuff?
Yes, very good.
Did you take survival school?
Yes, yeah. You had to in the Marine Corps, you know, you had to do that.
Of course.
Of course. You had to do that.
Well,
I'm doing that next week. I'm going down to the Baja Peninsula. Roughing it.
What do you mean roughing it? You're taking a camper, you're taking Jack Grant's motorhome.
That's
27 foot, it's got an electric icebox.
For me, that's roughing
It's got a propane gas stove, it's got a shower, and you're roughing it in Baja.
We're forced to drink out of plastic cups.
That would be a change. Usually you just go right in the jug. That's called roughing it. Go ahead from the bottle of cups. You better take some home movies of that, because I want to see that.
You want to see? Okay.
You roughing it in that camper. Anyway, it's a handbook for camp cooking, if you're out.
Came just in time for me.
Yes, and it sold a remarkable 100,000 copies in the past year. And she's going to do a little demonstration tonight and teach you how to keep from starving to death while cooking over an open fire. Can you do all those things?
Yes, I can.
No. Okay. What? Why don't I go over and find out about it?
I'll see you.
I'll be right back. Would you welcome Dian Thomas? Here we are at the campsite. Now, you do have charcoal burning there, right?
Right. But I'm going to show you some other things here.
That is warm, isn't it?
Yes.
How did you get into this, the outdoor cooking as a home economist? Usually they teach things within the school, but not outdoors.
My father was a forest ranger, and I grew up out in the mountains in Utah.
Yeah?
And learned a lot about the outdoors. And when I wrote my master's thesis at Brigham Young, they asked me if I wouldn't write curriculum guides for teachers to teach this in home economics classes.
So if somebody is out with just rudimentary equipment and certain basics, you can get along, right?
Right, and you don't need to spend a lot of money for equipment, as you'll see in just a minute. Let me show you how to start. I want you to start a fire here, Johnny. Come here.
All right.
You have to
Remember the night we had the Boy Scout on and we had the axe and the flint? It was murder.
You have to hold the batteries together just like they go in a flashlight.
In other words, if you took 2 flashlight batteries.
Right.
Right. You had those with you.
Right.
That's steel wool, obviously.
This is a fine grade of steel wool.
Right. Now, what are we going to do?
Okay, now you need to place those
Make
together.
the contact?
Yeah. And then, why don't I hold them? You make the contacts, and then I want you to start that the paper there. Put it down there and just start blowing.
Oh,
okay,
I see.
touch right here. Touch this end right here.
Touch this right
You need to get pretty close. Oh, there you go. See? Blow. Keep blowing. Yep, keep blowing. More. There. There you go. Very good.
How about that?
great.
Of course, you have to have the batteries with you and the steel wool,
Right.
or else you're in trouble. Okay.
No, I usually just take, what I want you to do now is to take this little paper and light this burner. What this is, Johnny, is a cardboard burner. It's made with rolled up cardboard. Okay, hold that right here at the bottom of this.
Right.
We'll light that.
Right like this?
Yeah.
You got cardboard in an
This is
old tuna can, right?
Right, and there's some wax melted into it.
Excuse me, I don't think I've got
Oh, you're
enough.
doing okay. It's coming. There we go. Now, the unique thing about this is the cardboard does not burn out of it, so you just keep putting chunks of wax on there, and it'll burn indefinitely.
Really?
Just put chunks of wax up there, and it burns down.
This is old paraffin, you mean?
Right.
And that's
And
just
then,
rolled up cardboard.
Uh-huh. With paraffin wax on top of it.
Well, it makes a small cooker.
Now, to regulate it, I'm going to put underneath the tin can here, but I want to show you how to regulate this. This is the lid from the tuna fish can.
Right.
You put it over there. There's low, medium, and high, so you can completely regulate your heat with this.
All right.
So let's put it underneath the can. I want you to turn that down to medium. That's halfway across.
It's a gallon coffee can, right?
Yeah, just place that.
And we put that on medium.
Right. Let me just set this right here so you'll be able to see it. There you go. Okay, we got on medium. Now, over here I have another one burning, and
Now, does this become...
yeah, that'll become really hot. Maybe I'll turn that up just a little bit now that we've showed you how to set that. Okay. Now, over here I have another one burning, and I've placed water in this paper cup to
Right.
boil. So why don't you just put that over on top of that one?
Put this
and let it
on
boil.
top of what?
Yeah, hold on the top, right on top
Well,
of
won't
this.
it burn the paper cup on it?
Oh, no, no. The water inside of it keeps the paper below its combustion point so it doesn't
Oh.
light.
And you can
There we
boil
go.
water that way?
Right in the paper cup. And the water inside will keep it below its combustion point.
In other words, that won't burn through the cup?
No, it'll be boiling this minute so you can have the hot water.
All right.
And I thought a fun thing to do today would be show you how we cook breakfast in a paper bag. So I put the paper bag on top of the can. And I want you to put some bacon inside of that. Just
raw
put
bacon.
those strips across. You have to put them strips. They have to be in strips across the bottom of the bag.
Wouldn't it be easier just to take a stove with you?
Okay, now that you got that line, now you can either have scrambled eggs or you can have sunny side up. The scrambled are the most fun.
I bet they are.
What you
now.
have to do, just knock that against that can, and then when you do scrambled eggs, you have to hold it up really high, and you've got to hit that sack to make it scramble. Marvelous! Okay, then all you have to
Tell
do
me
is
that's
go
going to
to-
cook in there?
Yeah, we'll be able to come back in just a minute.
Now, why won't
Did
that...
you want 2 eggs, or do you want one?
Once.
We'll put
Now,
that down.
why doesn't the sack catch on fire?
Well, because it doesn't get hot enough.
No, but it will.
But outside, you
You
can
hear
put that over the coals. You can just place that over the coals on a stick and hold it about that far above the coals.
In a
Now, if you
paper
do-
sack?
Right. If you do put that by the flames, that will burn. But if you'll
Yeah.
just hold it like that.
That's incredible.
So, it's just great.
Okay,
Well,
we're cooking
yeah, I think
bacon and
we're-
eggs in a paper sack.
You got your cup boiling over here in your
Water
paper
is
cup.
about ready to boil.
You're not going to have any dishes to do after you get through.
What do you do with the boiling water after it's boiling? I mean,
Well,
make
you-
coffee or whatever.
Well, whatever you want to put in. Sometimes you make soup.
How do you know
I
when
wanna
this
show
is
you.
done?
Well, we just let it cook for a minute. Why don't you turn it down just a little bit?
Oh.
Just push that in. There you go. Great. Okay, that looks good.
Okay.
Did you turn it on medium?
No, not quite.
Very good. Okay, I want to show you a lot of things you can cook inside of food. And so if you'll just cut that onion in half, I want you to pop out half those onions.
Well, we have to do, we'll do commercial first, and then, what are we going to do with the onions?
Well, we're going to put meat inside of it and make a meatloaf inside of the onion. And then
All righty, it sounds fair enough.
One of our old
There's
sponsors.
a stranger out in the woods.
Hi. Hi, fella.
Are you here to help us wash up?
No. I just finished my meal over in the camper.
Think I'll go with you.
Well, I feel like I'm doing a Disney picture. This is Dian Thomas, and we've got bacon and eggs in a sack. And they're half done already. And you've got a paper cup of water boiling over that cardboard container that you lit with wax in it, right?
Right.
And we're going to do something with it. You've got this is fascinating. Do you want to show that now?
Yeah, do you want to show that now?
You know what that is sitting over there? This is charcoal, right?
Right.
And you've taken an ordinary paper, cardboard box.
Right.
And set it on a little metal rack. You've covered it with some plastic, and that becomes an oven?
This is an oven wrap. You can buy it in the store. Usually wrap turkeys in it when you do your Thanksgiving dinner. So
Now,
it
what is
doesn't
it?
burn.
The heat from the charcoal.
Rises up in there, and then I have a little thermometer inside of that, and it tells me how hot my oven is, so I can completely
You say
regulate.
that's almost 400 degrees in that inside of that box.
It isn't right now, but you can get it up to about 400 degrees,
That
and
just
it will
retains
not
the
burn the
heat.
box.
That's incredible. Okay, what are we going to make here now?
Okay, I want you to cut the onion in half.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, there you go. You have to go all the way through. So we're going to pop out part of that and put our meat inside of there. So you can have your vegetable and your meatloaf, and you don't have to have anything else. Okay, pop out the other half.
Pop out what?
I want you to pop out half of that, and I'll pop
We're
out
going to
half.
take out the middle?
Yeah, right.
All right.
Okay, right, you need to put some hamburger in there.
I take some hamburger.
Right.
Can I do it? I can move my hands, can't I?
Sure, yeah, just make a little ball. Oh. Really got the technique.
Okay, how's that?
Now put that on top of it.
This goes right on?
Yeah. And then place it on the shiny side of foil.
On the shiny side of the aluminum
Yeah,
foil.
while I hold this, would you just fold that down at the top? There you go. Real small folds. You'll flatten it out here.
Right.
Roll it in on both sides.
Right.
Just roll, yeah.
So
You roll
you-
that side in, I'll roll this
All right,
side.
we got a hollowed out onion with a roll of hamburger in it,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, we'll put this over here on the coals and leave that.
Now you can put that right on the
Yeah.
charcoal.
Leave that 15 minutes and then turn it over and leave it another 15 minutes. You got it made. I've got a couple over here that have already cooked. I'll just set those out so they're warm and they'll be ready for your dinner.
All right.
Now, another fun thing to do is cook food inside of an orange, and I've already got the orange out of that.
Hollowed out an orange?
Yeah. Why don't
What are we
you
gonna
hold
cook?
this? I mix my
Want me to hold this
cakes in heavy plastic bags, and I don't have bowls to do.
Oh, I see. Mix that,
Yeah,
pre-mix
so
that
why don't
stuff.
you pour that in?
Right. Say when.
All right.
I haven't filled an orange before.
Okay. There. Great. Oh, good. Okay.
Sorry.
Place it. Why don't you put the lid on that, and I'll go get the foil to wrap that in.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Butter.
Okay, place that right in the foil. Yeah, there you go. And just bring that up to the top and twist it.
Just bring it up in like a little...
Yeah, there you go. Oh, good. Now twist it at the top. There you go. Just place that right down there in the coals.
Two down front.
You ready for your cake?
Now, you got what kind of a cake you got in the box here?
Well, we'll just pop this off, the lid off and that. And, I've already...
All right.
Ooh, that's hot. We'll get this asbestos glove.
Can you hear this cooking down here? You could do all this in the woods? Oh, come on.
We're doing this next week.
Oh, come on.
Okay. I need to have you put that foil right over the top. Okay. Hold your hands there, because I'm going to turn it over. How hot is it? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Ah, beautiful. Now lift off the top. Oh, would you need the...
Oh, a pineapple. Look at this. And that's hot. A pineapple upside down cake. Rings of pineapple with cherry.
Here's the cardboard box of it with a little thermometer.
Cake is getting very hot on the bottom.
Oh, all right.
Cake is burning my hand. Right through to the hand. So we'll
How are
serve
the
that.
eggs?
What?
How are the eggs?
Don't rush me. Hot bacon grease.
Oh,
coming.
yeah. I forgot to tell you.
Hot bacon grease coming through bottom of sack. Ah.
You want it?
I want you to look on this sack. Because really what you have, if we had a
Wait,
plate...
tear it down. Should we tear it down?
Sure. You've got two
Do you
pieces
wanna-
of bacon that are nice and crisp and a nice medium fried egg or scrambled.
Right.
Look, and hot. Would you send, I said soft, would you send that back?
Oh, all right.
That's delicious. And it's cooked completely through in about, what, 4 or 5 minutes?
Yeah, right.
That's incredible. We have to take a break? We will take a break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Here's a word. Pull one of our
Okay, Dian, is that it? That's the end of that one, but I'm going to show, the next one I want to show you is about some dogs. Not this one. Go to the one that I sent you. When I was in France, I went to a castle, and at this castle, they had 56 dogs. And so once a day, they feed the dogs. And so I made a clip of what they do when they feed the dogs. So Are you ready to go?
I am ready.
Okay, so we wanted to show you this because I'm not able to show you videos where it would go in the presentation. So here we go with one more video. This is not it. That's Vicky's husband.
Oh,
Nope. Sheena, have you got the video or should we go on with it?
It's, are you not seeing it?
Nope, we're not
Okay,
seeing
hang
it.
on one second. One
We're
second.
seeing
Sorry
different
about that.
people that are
Okay,
on.
let me do this. Let me do this. 1 second. I want y'all to get the full experience here. Okay, share.
Okay, here we go.
Now let me know. Can you hear?
One of the main events at chateaus during the 16th and 17th century was hunting in the forest. Hunting dogs were a key to the success of these adventures. Chateau de Chevenix still has over 60 hunting dogs that they feed once a day. It is quite an experience to watch them feed the dogs. First, the master comes in and dumps the dog food onto the cement. He then mixes it and puts it into the trough ready for the dogs, who have been directed to go on top of the building and wait. When the food is in all of the trays or spread on the side of the floor, the eating is ready to begin. The trainer goes over, opens up the door, and wow, do they come out. He waits for just a moment for all of them to come down before he gives them the final signal to begin the feast that they have been waiting for. Once the feast is over, the trainer walks around and gives them some TLC. What a dinner this has been. And they finish it off with a nice drink of water.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I wanted you to see how they feed the dogs because it's quite an experience. They do it at noon every day. So I'm going to now go to my presentation, which we're going to talk about France. And Vicky asked me if I'd talk about food, especially food, culture, and a little bit about the French country. So if you'll notice on my map that I have here, we have to the north Belgium, and then on beyond Belgium is Amsterdam. Then we have Germany covering to the right, and then Switzerland, Italy, and then Spain. So there's what, 6 countries that border France? And France is probably one of the best experiences I've ever had traveling. So I thought I'd share a little bit more about my background and how I got into traveling so much. When I was young, I wasn't at high school and junior high school and elementary school. I probably had what most people know as dyslexia, but they didn't know anything about it then. So I was just a poor reader, poor speller, and couldn't write really well. My brothers used to say, she can write reading, but she can't read writing. So that was their slogan. But my first trip to Europe was in 1969, probably before some of you were born, but we had a book called Europe on $5 a day. And so it was, you could live really on $5 a day in Europe. Now, I doubt you could do it for $150. It's much, much more expensive, but it was my very first flight out. I had never flown before, and I flew to Europe and did not have a place to stay. So everybody that looked at me, any men that looked at me, I thought were for sure going to rape me because I was from a little town in southern Utah and going to Europe anyway. So finally, this cab driver took me to where I had to stay, and he helped me get all my luggage up. And I was scared to death because there was no bathroom in the room. There was a bathroom down the hall. And so I went to the bathroom, came back, pushed the dresser up against the door and cried myself to sleep. So that was my first night in Europe. I got better and better at traveling, and as many of you know, I wrote Roughing It Easy and traveled with BYU for 6 years, for 6 months of the year. So then I went on to get a job on the Today Show for 8 years, traveling back and forth to New York. And in the process, I traveled a lot. One year I was on the road 300 days of the year, which is a little too much. So, but I've spent 40 years of my life traveling. And so one of my favorite places is France. And I've had a delightful time pulling probably 10,000 pictures together to put together a presentation for you. So I think we'll begin. So let's see if, okay, here we go. I was invited to go with 3 different families, and they were going to spend 1 week in Amsterdam or in Paris. And then we would go to Nantes, which is on the west side of France, and then bike across France into Switzerland and into Germany. It was a 2-month trip. And I was so excited, but this is the little kids getting off. We had 8 kids under 10 years old. So you can imagine, we flew to Toronto and then flew on Canadian Air all the way to France. And when we got off, we went to a campground, and this is all of my friends that were on their bikes. So this is a picture of our group on our bikes, and we spent 1 week in Paris. So the next few pictures I'm going to show you are in what we did in Paris. The campground we stayed in was connected to a park, which is right in the middle of Paris. Blew my mind that you could camp right in the middle of Paris. And then we'd ride our bikes to the Arc de Triomphe every day. So this is the bus or the truck bringing all of our bikes. So we had shipped those over a couple of months ahead of time, and they were just delivering our bikes to us. So we camped along the fence here, and here I am with my bike, my biking gear, and my little trailer with all the stuff I needed to haul. So I thought it would be fun to maybe show you some of the highlights of Paris. My goal is not necessarily to give you a travel log of what we did, although that will be in a little bit, but to give you snippets of stories and things that happened, because the reason I travel is not to, I mean, it's nice to see the Arc de Triomphe and the Eiffel Tower and the Mona Lisa, but I really, really honestly travel to meet the people and see how they live and eat their food. And so that will be my goal today. But the Arc de Triomphe has, as you can see, about 7 or 8 lanes going around it. And it is quite a scene. We'd go there every day and ride from there to where we were going. This is the Louvre, which is probably the most known museum of art in the world because it houses the Mona Lisa. So I thought it would be fun. I always like to understand what the cost of something is. And so I looked and said, what is the cost of Mona Lisa? And it quoted me $1 billion. And then it said it was priceless. So this was painted by Leonardo da Vinci. It's only 30 inches high and 21 inches wide. And the amazing thing to me is you could walk from one side to the other side and her eyes would follow you. How that happens, I will never know. But this is the audience it has, people standing out. Of course, it's roped off, but tons of people all the time coming to see the Mona Lisa. Another one, as you may all know because of the fire, is the Notre Dame, which was a cathedral right on the Seine River. It was built in 1163 and finished in 1345, which we rode our bikes there. And as you can see, if you put a little food in your hand, the pigeons would come and eat out of your hands. So that was a fun thing for us to do. But on April the 15th, 2019, the Louvre caught on fire. And I believe it was because of electric short somewhere in the building. And the structure didn't burn, but the wooden parts of it did. And so this, you can see some of the smoke here. I mean, it just breaks your heart to see something that this old and this magnificent being burned. But these are a few pictures from it. And then you can see what was left in the chapel part of it. So they cleaned that out and got the structure ready. And you can see here that they're rebuilding it. And I was able to go in and get an architect's sketch of it. This is what they're planning to do. And this is what it looked like before. But the reconstruction, I thought, I'm always interested in how much it's going to cost. So the reconstruction will cost $865 million. And they said right after it burned, they had over $1 billion of donation, people donating. And it should be finished in 2024 for the French Olympic celebration. So apparently France is going to have the Olympics there, and they'll have the Notre Dame at least finished to the point that you can go into the chapel and have a tour. And they said it'll take longer to do some of the inside work, but I thought that was really interesting. Another big tourist attraction, and people, there's lawns all the way around, and then you can stand in line to go up on the Eiffel Tower, but it's over 3 football fields high. And it was built in the International Exposure in 1889. It is absolutely beautiful, and it's a landmark for them. But to think of 3 football fields and plus another 100 feet on top of that. So it was pretty amazing. Now, all through France, you'll find a lot of restaurants put their restaurants out on the sidewalk. So you can go in and eat, or you can go out on the sidewalk. And they love this. I thought it was just fun to see people out enjoying the weather and eating outside. Now, this is the Seine River, which runs absolutely right by Notre Dame, but right down the middle of France. And I thought it was interesting here, as you look across the river, you can see the buildings there. Most of the buildings, at least that I saw in the area that I went, would be 3 to 4 stories with this it's not sandstone, but it's just this light cream color. So nothing is too high. I'm sure there's some areas that are higher, but nothing is that high. Outside, we rode probably about 2 hours out of Paris to the Palace of Versailles. And there are so many palaces and castles and things. We'll show you more of those later on. But Versailles is one of the most famous ones. And these were mostly built in the 16th, 17th century. So here's another look at the back of Versailles. Some of you I know about Mormon temples. Quite near, I would say within a mile of Versailles, was the LDS temple, which is near Paris. So I thought I would take a picture and just show some of you might have been there or know more about it. Now, I wanted to get into the food part of today because Vicki emphasized how important that is for you to see the food. So I thought it would just be fun. I went back through tons of slides and pulled out many of the food pictures. Most of them are ones of things that I ate that were absolutely delicious. So these are called macaroons, and they're made out of an egg white with a cream in the middle of them. And that is very typical of France. They can be made here, but they're hard to do. And I think you need an almond flour, which you can order from Amazon and get that to make them. I've never made them. I have a friend who does and makes them for her kids, and they absolutely love them. But anyway, they are delicious. Now, I don't know if this is exactly, boursin is what it's called, but on my first trip in 1969, I discovered this. Now, I know you can buy it here now, and I've seen it in Costco, but I fell in love with it. And baguettes is the bread that they eat all the time. Now, if any of you come down to Salt Lake, drop into Harmon's and pick up their baguettes. That's as close as any baguette I've ever seen in the US to what you get in France. And actually, I talked to one of their bakers there, and they said that the ovens that they bake this bread in are brought in from Europe. And so their baguettes are just stunning. And get some of this boursin. It's has garlic, it's a few herbs in it, and then it's just kind of like cream cheese, all this mixed in it. And I'll never forget the first time I discovered it in 1969. It was so good. Another famous one is crepes. And if you just call crepes, it's actually eggs and flour, and then you just kind of cook it on a hot thing and turn it over, and then you can add different things to it. This is a dessert crepe, and if they call it a crepe Suzette, Suzette on the back of a crepe means it has alcohol in it. So this is just a crepe with some ice cream and a little orange. And notice the little detail of the orange, how simple, but how it adds another color to it. I would have to say that the French people are probably the masters of presentation of food. Their food is delicious. I love Italian food, but I don't think it's presented quite as beautiful as the French food. So maybe as we go through these slides, you can see some of the presentations, and maybe, I mean, this is one that you could do on a salad or something at home. Pick up some ideas that you can use when you're home. Now, this is a picture of a lady and her daughter. The mother started this was out in the country when I stayed, and I'll show you where I stayed, but the mother started a crepe shop, and that's all they served inside the crepe shop. And now her daughter has taken over and runs it. And it was right next to where I was staying. So I made a few trips over there. So this is one of the crepes that I enjoyed. This is a savory crepe, which means it doesn't have sweet. It's not a sweet one. So you have dessert crepes and the savory crepes. So this was, I think it was a ham that was on top of it with some fruit. You can see the fruit on it. And then a little chutney on it and a salad. And then some, I guess it's jam or something like that over on the left. This one was a sandwich, kind of like a crepe, but you'd get a fork and a knife with it. And this would be a ham with cheese, and then the greens with tomatoes and olives. Oh, and then notice on the side how they just taken, that would be balsamic vinegar, the little dots, or just a little balsamic vinegar to set it off. This would be a breakfast one with ham and some cheese and an egg and a little salad, and she's folded that in. After I looked at all these, I thought, I wish I was a little younger. I'd love to start a crepe shop and just sell crepes. I think it'd go really well with so many people now going to eat out. But oh, that would be delicious. These are now some dessert crepes, and so she's made it a square crepe, and then, as you can see, just put some chocolate and some almonds and some cream on it, and then has a little cup that she put. I don't know, I can't remember whether it's cream or what she put into that, but anyway, it was scrumptious. Here's another dessert crepe, just a square one, and then some ice cream on it, and some cream and some jam or some sweet. Now, this was outside of a palace that I went to, but you'll find it even on the road as we were riding our bikes in France on the street. There were people making crepes like this, and it's from Italy. It's that chocolate stuff you can buy, Nutella, I think it is. So they may have 10 different things that you can add to that. Bananas would be another one, and then they roll that up, and they're spectacular. So these are some of the main courses, and I thought, how simple is this? Just a nice green salad with, instead of just giving you salmon, they put it on each corner and then put a little balsamic vinegar over the top of it, and you've got your lunch. So this one is a piece of pork, a couple of pieces of pork. And then to serve the rice, they put that in a square container and then put that out on it with some green beans. But France is famous for their sauces. And not that they're very skinny, I don't think so, but they're delicious and add a special taste to everything. So I love their sauces that they eat. This is one, and it may not look terribly advertising, but it was so delicious. They put rice on the bottom, and then you can see the shrimp. Shrimp are cooked, and then they put some green peas in that, and then again your sauce. That one has some nice butter in it, as you can see. A salad up to the top left, but oh my goodness, it was good. Here's another piece of salmon. Again, I think it's with spinach with a sauce, and then roasted potatoes. And then over on the right side, if you notice the greens, and I don't remember what it was they did, but they put some kind of green in and just added the decoration to that. But all of these are just places I've stopped in at a restaurant and eat. So this is a salad with different kinds of cheese on it. So that was really a nice taste to it. Okay, hang on just a second. Here's another main dish. Notice the roasted carrots there on the right-hand side. And then they have they've taken and with a peeler, made another carrot for decoration. So they really do decorate their food really nice. This is one with a piece of meat rolled up around a piece of chicken. So this is, I don't remember, I'm guessing that's probably a piece of ham. And it's rolled around the chicken to give it a little more flavor. And then on the inside, it's probably, could be a piece of squash, and then they've got potatoes around it and cauliflower. Now their French fries are not like our French fries. This is a typical French fry. You'll get in a little dish like this, and this was a sausage on the side, but I thought it would be interesting to see the presentation on that. So they're kind of quartered, and then I think they're deep fried, but many times what they will do is give you a kind of a salad dressing instead of ketchup or the sauce on them. Here's another main course. This was served in a restaurant where there were mushrooms, so you could see the mushrooms on the side. Little pepper, red pepper and green pepper on both sides of that, with some green onions on top of that. This was just some crackers, and then they put in a piping tubes a little bit of butter and put that through, and so you could break off the cracker and then eat a little bit of, and I think it was like mixed with maybe garbanzo or something like that would give you a little bit of texture to it. This is a dessert. You can see these are just little tiny watermelons on the side, and then the little dot on the middle, and I think it's probably some kind of rice, I'm not sure. So anyway, here's the baguettes, and again, oh, they're so good. They buy them every day. Baguettes everywhere. This is at a little, when we were riding to Versailles on our bikes, we found this little place that they had all the different breads that you could buy, and oh, their breads are absolutely wonderful. But this was a little girl. She was about 2 years old. That she's enjoying her baguette with a. Now these again macaroons on the left side, and then you find these French pastry shops almost everywhere, and I just say they're beautiful eye candy. You know, the strawberries and the raspberries, and oh, it's all presented so nice. And we would stop from time to time and pick out which one we'd like and have a nice little treat for us. But look how beautiful these are. Here's another one. These are the left are baked little pies that they baked, and then you got some meringue on lemon in the middle, and then some bars and some strawberries. Here's even another counter. You can buy the cups already done, or any one of these. But again, the macaroons, you see those almost everywhere you go. So I hope this makes you really hungry and you go find a French pastry shop. We've got some dusted raspberries there in the middle, and some eclairs. We know eclairs come from over there, and then again our macaroons. So, and then this was at a farmer's market, and these are, I'm guessing, you can see up at the top on the right hand top, it has nuts and almonds in it. I think it's probably some kind of mixture of egg white. And anyway, they were beautiful. I can't remember eating that, but you'll get it. This is a little interesting desserts. So this might be a platter that would come out after a meal, and then you could pick out the little desserts you wanted. Now, cheese shops are everywhere. I love their cheese shops. So you can see how many cheeses they have. Rarely do we see cheese shops like this over here. So, but I wanted to get in a little bit closer. Can you see on each one of the cards, they put a sheep or a cow or a goat or whatever it is the cheese is from, so you know exactly where it comes from. But they love their cheeses. They're so good. Now, after we got through a week in Paris, we then caught a train. Actually, it took us a couple of trains to get to Knots. You can see Knot, it's actually that yellow dot that's out here, Knots. So we had to sleep we got well, there were 19 of us all together, and that's far too many bikes to get onto one train. So we had to split up. So we had two groups. I was in the first group with a family of 6 kids and the mother and dad. So there were 9 of us. And then there was 10 in the next group. And so we split up. We were in the first train. So we had to stop halfway and stay overnight. We couldn't get a direct train to Knot. So we stayed halfway. We went out and laid our sleeping bags out on the cement and slept that night out on the cement, and got up about 6 o'clock so we could catch the train, and then went to Knots. Now, if you'll notice the little green river down to the square, that's about as far, well, probably to the next one, Tours, is the length of where I went. The group had so many kids, and I wanted to try French food, and we were cooking out, and I love to cook out. That's not the problem, but here I am in France, and my major was home economics, and I loved food, still do love food, and wanted to go out and try it. So let me go ahead and talk to you about when we got to Nantes. And this is all of us getting ready. You can see our bikes, and we had everything, tents and sleeping bags and everything on our bikes. So we left and went to Nantes. We slept overnight in the train station. And then the group that I was with started out. We decided to go ahead and start, and we'd meet at the camping site because we knew exactly where we were going. And so the father said to me, "Why don't you ride ahead?" There was a path along the river. This is the river that we were going along, and it has it's the Loire River. And he said, "Why don't you just go and ride the path and find the campground, check it out, and then be there and let us know." Now, my phone had run down. I had 1%, which is worthless, really. And so I took off ahead of everybody and rode down the path. And so I waited, I rode about 10 miles, and I came to a place. You can see the little embankment here, the cement embankment. There was a bridge that went across the river, and then it kept on going. And I didn't know whether I needed to go across the river or keep on going. And so I kind of concluded that I probably ought to just sit on this embankment and wait until somebody came along and helped me. And I did have a map, but I still couldn't figure out where I was and where I'd been or any of that. So this was sent to me by, let me just go to the next slide. This couple stopped by on their bike and started talking, and they came over to see if they could help me when I was sitting on this embankment. And he sent me this picture later. It was here. I was not sure which way I was going and where I was, which is really true. So they came over and said, "Can we help you?" And I said, "Do you speak English?" And they said, "A little, a little." And then they said, "Where have you been?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. Where are you going? I don't know." And then they started speaking in French. They started just rattling in French. And pretty soon they stopped and they say, "You come stay with us tonight." Well, it threw me off because I was trying to find the campground. I thought, "Come stay with you?" And then it went through my mind. We'd been out a week, and I desperately needed a good sleep and a washing machine and a dryer. So I said, I will come. And so they took me, we drove and rode our bikes about another 4 miles to their place. And then I could charge my phone up so I could call back and tell everybody I didn't find the campground, but I found a bed. And so I stayed with them that night. And so the next few slides is I only stayed with them 24 hours and it was amazing. So they were both chemistry teachers, absolutely delightful. So they took me to their home and she prepared this meal. And I wanted to pinch myself all the time going, I can't believe I'm in a real French home. How did I get in a French house? This is amazing. And so he helped me fix my bike and I left some things that I didn't need with them because you always take more than you should. And this was our nightly dinner. So she made a nice pasta salad here. No, I guess it's a vegetable salad. Sorry about that. And it has avocados and carrots and cabbage and all of that in there. So I went up to bed and had just a lovely night's sleep and came back down. Now, when I met them, I gave them a business card which had my address on it at home in Utah. And so when I got up the next morning, I went down, I was sleeping upstairs. I went downstairs for breakfast and Michelle was his name and Danielle was her name. So Michelle presents me with this picture, which is a picture of my house in Utah with my Jeep by it. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. So I go, how did he get that? And what he did was that night, he Googled my address off from my business card and saw my house. And so he stayed up and drew this and then added the color to it and gave it to me that morning. And he's got a little biker going across with my little trailer on it and it's wishing me well on my bike trip across France. So I wanted to show you a little bit bigger so you can see, and then he signed it, Michelle and Danielle. So anyway, this is my house in Salt Lake. So this was they had a beautiful yard. They had a pool out in the back, so they took a swim. And I thought it would be fun to kind of show you what a typical village looks like. Again, nothing is very high and most of it's kind of a cream color. So, and then this is a street. This is a typical street that you'll see as you ride down. I told him that night, they gave me lunch and then helped me again. He helped me add a couple of things to my bike. And so at breakfast, I said, I want you to find the nicest restaurant in this area and make reservations for 3 of us. And so we talked to the people. I let them know that I wasn't going to be there that night camping with them. And then I was going to join them the next night. So we went to dinner first to this beautiful chateau out in the French countryside. And here we are, all ready for dinner. And I thought I'd show you the different plates so you understand. This is a high-end restaurant. It was a 3-course dinner. I'm sure it was easily $50 to $60 a plate. So I wanted to try foie gras, which is the liver of a duck. And they actually kind of force feed the duck a little bit. And it just melts in your mouth. It's really delicious. That was my main course. This was a chicken. Again, you see the sauces and the potatoes and the peas and probably a little carrots there. But again, it's so delicious. This was another one of the main courses, a nice, beautiful piece of salmon with potatoes and peas and the sauce again. And then one of the courses at the end was cheese. So I ordered the cheese and then we all ate it, but they come out with a platter of cheese like this. And so you can see this is on the right-hand side is a sheep. This is just to the left of that is a cow. There's another cow. There's some cows, some sheep, and then a goat over here that on the left side, you can see that tube. That would be, I guess it's a goat. Yeah, a goat. So the man, once we picked the cheeses, he began to cut them off from that board and plate them for us. So this is the plate that he gave us with all the different cheeses. So he would tell us about each one of the cheeses as he cut it and put on the board as we put on it. But oh my goodness, it's like going to heaven having these beautiful cheeses. So then these are some the desserts that we had after the cheese. And I don't remember who had what, but we all got to taste each other's. So this is a sherbet with something like a brownie. Again, notice how beautiful this presentation is. So I left there and joined my group, and we biked for another 3 or 4 days, and we came to a place called Samir, which is near Tours when I showed you that map on that. But I was impressed with this because they had umbrellas hanging as you came into the town, and I thought it was so beautiful and added such a nice color to the town. But then I thought one of the fun things would be to take you to a farmer's market, because many of you have been to a farmer's market. So this is the farmer's market in Samir. You can see down how to spell that. I ended up staying. I left the group because it was more of a family project. And again, I told you I wanted to kind of explore France and see more of France. So this is taken from one of my weekend excursions out to the farmer's market. So the bread, it's a heavy bread, but it's just beautiful. I think I'm gonna have to go buy some French bread after I get through giving you this presentation. This is, I thought this little boy had a delightful face, but he and his dad had roasted these chickens, and that's what they were selling. So all of this is in that one farmer's market. This is a show of the fish. And I don't think we were really close to the ocean there, but we were on the river. So you get a lot of this off in the river. But this one, if you've ever been to Florida, is what they call stone crab. And it's just a hard crab, but it is so delicious. I waited in line probably an hour once in Miami to go to Joe's Stone Crab, but they had this here you could buy. Mussels is another thing that they have. I went to France another trip and stayed in Normandy, where all the cemeteries are, and every night I went for the same mussel dish that had cream on it, and it was so good. I had it for an entire week, so I love mussels. A lot of food is processed, or meats are processed over there, and you can see, I think the origin of some of this is from maybe Germany. I'm not totally sure of that, but I just thought it would be fun for you to see some of the processed meats, and then you can buy like the regular beef and pork. So this guy had cheeses and sausages that he was selling. This is a little closer look at some of his cheeses and sausages. So then this guy was so cute. I told him I wanted to take a video of him. And so as you can see, he's taking the salmon that's been smoked and cutting little teeny tiny thin slices and then selling that. But he was quite a performer for me. And then here's some more dishes that you can buy. What I was amazed, and this isn't too big of a town, I would say maybe 20 to 30,000 people, to have this much. So it told you that they had a big traffic of people who came there to buy all of these specialties. And then there were all of the fruits and vegetables that you could also buy. So here's the vegetables and some of the fruits. So, and then a big olive bar, which is really nice. You can see that in many of the stores now, but it was so fun. And then a spice counter, so you could buy different types of spices by the pound here. And then I thought this was a fun way to finish it off. You see the same French fries as we've seen earlier, a hamburger, and this little kid is loving every bite of this. So this is a picture of a grocery store, a little different than ours, but everything is faced and is really pretty. And You can buy lots of cheeses and stuff at a grocery store, meats. This is a picture of the house or an Airbnb that I rented, and it was renting for about $500 a night. And the guy hadn't rented it, and so I found him. He talked English. He was an Englishman, and so I said, you know what? Why don't you do this? I can afford to pay like $400 or $450 for a week. But I said, if somebody comes, you just tell me and I move out. I don't mind it. So I negotiated with him and got it. And a couple of the rooms were locked, which was fine. It was just bedrooms. I had you can see the two little pictures, or the two little windows up right in the middle of it at the top. One of those was my bedroom. And then I rented this car from him for about a week. So, but nobody came to rent and so he made $400 more. Anyway, I had to convince him that it was a good deal for him. But outside my window is the Loire River. And I could open it up, and at night I would leave it open. And this was a sunset one night on the river. It was just beautiful. And then I woke up about 4 o'clock in the morning, and or maybe it was 5. It was probably 5 o'clock in the morning. This was during the summer. I just couldn't even take my eyes off from it. It was so gorgeous. So I did have a visitor. I had a bird fly in one night because it was open, and both of us were scared to death. Finally, he figured his way out, so saved our life. But this is a real typical little village road. And these houses were built, I would say, in the 17th century. So that's why you don't have, and so it's just usually one-way streets, and biking down them is really nice. But I thought it would be fun to show you what the country streets look like. Now in Samir, where I was, they had a big castle. So all along the river are castles. And this was the castle, and I could see it from one of the places I stayed for a week. And then you can see the church there. And I stayed across the river, and then I'd have to ride to the river. But I didn't know, I was by myself, and I didn't know where to go, what to see. I had some guidebooks, but still, that's, to me, is not as good as somebody telling you. So I went to the tourist information place, and I found a lady from Germany who spoke really good English and knew the area really well. So every day I would go to her, and I'd say, okay, where am I going today? And then she would tell me, and I would go. And it was delightful. It really made my trip special because I got to see a lot of stuff. So the next day I get up, go down, ask her. And, I went to the market I showed you there. This is a place about probably 7 kilometers, which would be about 5 miles south of Samir. And it was just this little restaurant. It's just on the side of the road, or the side of the street. And so I found this guy who was painting. Look at that gorgeous, amazing picture. And he could speak English. And I said to him, how are you out here drawing? Do you have a profession? What's your profession? He said, I'm an architect, but this is my passion. And so I went by for the next 3 days, and he was there every single day. And finally he looked up to me and pointed to my bike, and he said, that's your passion too. He said, I have to do my passion. So I thought that was a really interesting story. When he was an architect, could make probably a goodly amount of money, and was out just sketching. And he slept near the river, so he slept in a sleeping bag, and it was absolutely delightful. I thought it was fun to see they do a nice job of decorating their houses and their windows, and I thought this was especially interesting. And then I saw a lot of these. I'm not 100%. I think they're not high. I don't know if they're hyacinths or whatever. They're beautiful. Now, in a lot of the towns, I found they had games. So you can see this is a checker board, and these kids are playing with their father. And then to the right, can you see back a couple of other boards? And then to the left, there's another family over playing. So you can just stop these little gigs. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything. They just expect you to take care of them, of course. But there was always little games in these little towns that were fun for families to go down and play. I thought that was a neat idea. Now, along as I'd ride down the river on one side, the other side would be limestones. And basically what they've done is dug back in the limestones and then created these facades on the front, and they actually live in these houses. So these are their houses. Think about it. If all you had to do is put the facade on the front and dig it out, the limestone is pretty soft. It's still hard enough that it's not going to cave in on you, but they create their homes right along the limestone. So I had a fun time riding along here, and there would be grapevines for wine, and wine is a big thing there. You could see the hollyhocks there a little bit to the left of the center and down below that brown window. But this was a beautiful facade on the one that they had dug into the mountain. Now, once you go in, this is actually a restaurant that was dug into the facade. And so it was a delightful restaurant. I had such a delicious meal there. And let me just, this is, they were famous for their little puff bread. You can see at the top. And then they had a couple of slices of cheese. And then I think this was something like hummus, and there's a nice salad. So that was my lunch at this little place. Now, one day, my little guide, my little German guide that was in the French part, told me she said, I want you to go see the mushrooms. They're beautiful. I thought, well, mushrooms are mushrooms are mushrooms. Well, I took her up on it and rode my bike probably about 4 kilometers to the little mushroom place. And here's a picture of just some of the mushrooms. I've never seen these mushrooms. I've seen a few of them, the button mushrooms and things like that, but not the red or the yellow, or even when I was in China a lot, I saw, I think, I can't remember exactly, in the middle one that's kind of brown what it is. But anyway, you could buy any of these mushrooms. So back in the caves, they would dig back in the caves, and the humidity was just right, and it was dark. Mushrooms want to be dark. The humidity has to be right. These caves were spectacular for growing the mushrooms. And so these are in each one of the bags. A man is preparing the mulch for the mushrooms to grow on. And this is what it looks like. You can see the little mushrooms starting to grow over on the right-hand side. So, and here they've covered these bags and then poked holes in and put the mushrooms in. And so you can see them growing out, and then they'd harvest those and sell those. So it was fascinating to go through and see. So here's, I thought some of the unusual ones. I love these, I guess you'd call that coral, a coral mushroom. I've never seen these in America. So some more yellow ones. I thought this was just a spectacular. I took all of these pictures, so these were just some that I found. And then here's your button mushrooms growing. And by the way, if any of you go to St. George in Fillmore, get off, as you go to St. George on the second exit, make a right. Get off that exit, make a right. There's a service station, and then make another right, and about a mile up is the mushroom factory, and you can go in, and it's called Mountain View Mushrooms. Every time I either go down to St. George or come back from St. George, I buy at least 5 pounds of the mushrooms, and they're cut that morning. So I usually call them just this Mountain View, if you want to jot that down, Mountain View mushrooms. I call them ahead of time and say, I'd want 5 pounds of your Kumini mushrooms. They're the brown ones. I like those a little better than the white ones. So, and then I buy them, and they'll last, if I bring them home and put them maybe a pound in a brown paper, lunch paper sack, and then staple it, put them in the refrigerator, they'll last for 10 days, and they're really nice. So now, hollyhocks are one of my absolute favorite flowers. I grew up with hollyhocks. My dad, as they said, was a forest ranger, and we had a lot of hollyhocks there. And so it was fun for me. There was tons and tons of hollyhocks along the river. So I thought some of you have got to know what hollyhocks are, but they value their plants. I thought this was a spectacular presentation of flowers on their thing. This was going into a mushroom restaurant, and all they had in there were, I mean, they had a little different presentations of mushrooms, but I just loved this flower. I thought it was so interesting. So this was what I ordered. It was a sample plate. And so they had 5 different mushrooms, and in each one of those they have like mashed potatoes and a potato au gratin on one. I don't know what the other 3 are, but anyway, it was spectacular. So they had roasted these mushrooms, but pretty much everything on the menu was mushrooms. These were some people that I just were sitting by me that were from Germany, and can you see their little dessert? It's a mushroom, but it's made from ice cream and cake. So the ice cream is the round part, or is the bottom part, and then they have a chocolate cake baked on top of it with frosting on it. So it looks just like a mushroom, and it was spectacular. Now I wanted to go into castles, because along the Loire in the 16th and 17th century, they built these enormous castles, and they would tell me that there'd be people that would bring for the nobility, they would bring their clothes and everything a week or 2 before and get everything set up in the kitchen all set, and then they would come. But this was the biggest one. I don't remember the name of this, but it was the biggest one, and I have a few pictures. This is another one. The one I showed you with the dogs, this is the castle where the dogs were. Here's another smaller castle, but there's castles all along there you can go see. Here's another castle. These are castles I went to each one of them and visited them. And then that big one that I just showed you, this is the inside of the castle. You can see the amount of detail that's just, I mean, it just goes on. This is up on the top of the roof, so it's probably about 3 or 4 stories up, but it was just spectacular. And then to get up there, you had to walk up the steps. So this is the circular staircase that goes up. And then I thought you'd like to know the chamber pot, the toilet situation there was the chamber pots. And then the seat goes down on those. And then to the left over there is a bed warmer, so they could put warm, they'd have to be really careful with it, but even a warm rock or something there, and then warm the beds before the people go to bed. So I thought this was fun. This was a little rocking horse for a kid that they had, and so we could see. I'd take that one over the ones we have nowadays. And then many beds look just like this. So these are the way the rich live, and they would say too that they wouldn't live there all summer or all year. This was just maybe their hunting lodge. For 6 weeks, they would come out and hunt here and have their horses and their dogs, as you saw the dogs, ready to go hunting. So I thought this was interesting, a little piano. So they didn't play it, so I don't know, but I'm sure it sounded just like a little piano. But here's the ceilings. I mean, the amount of work and money and cost that would go into something like this couldn't even be duplicated now. So this was interesting. This was the guy that painted the Mona Lisa. Why am I not thinking? Anyway, this was his house. I should have put it on there. It'll come to me. And then outside in the gardens, they had gardens all over it. Vicki, do you remember? Why am I not thinking?
Da Vinci.
Da Vinci, yes. Okay, this was Da Vinci's house. Thank you. And it was fun to go through, and he had an art room, but he did so much more. Leonardo da Vinci, he did so much more than just paintings. And he's the one that did the Last Supper in Italy up on a kind of a wall that you go into, a barn wall that's really beautiful. But you'd walk throughout the gardens, and there were all of his discoveries and things that you could actually lookout like this one and try them, and it was very interesting. And then another thing I wanted to show you was the spectacular gardens. And you can imagine, I would think most of these castle gardens had any upwards of 6 to 10 gardeners that did nothing, but this was a kitchen garden. So you come out of the kitchen and then pick the lettuces or whatever it is that you wanted. And I mean, I'd love to have this around my garden spaces. But so not only closest to the building is, I think, the kitchen garden, but out here is more the artistic gardens. So this was a very big castle. This is the picture of the castle, and it goes way, way to the side. But again, can you see the tomatoes on the right hand side? And then the Swiss chard, the lettuces. And again, the more formal gardens were on the other side. And you can see in between the hedges that they have the flowers are planted there. So they're growing up and will be beautiful. But oh, it's so spectacular. So this is the gardens behind the ones with the dogs that I showed you earlier. So now I fell absolutely in love with these sunflowers. I think they get oil out of them, like canola, not canola oil, because that's another flower, but sunflower oil. And I meant that they all, as the sun moves, the head moves with them. So you can see how beautiful and spectacular they are. You can see they're all headed that way. So I put this so you could understand the size of a bike compared to how big these are. So I was so taken with this field that I'd ride my bike out there. It was about 4 kilometers, probably about 3 miles from where I was staying, but I just couldn't get enough of them. It was one of my favorite things that I saw there. So this was my little, I had to always wear my little hat. And most of the people over there don't wear a helmet unless they're really bike racers, but we're used to doing it over here. So another part of the experience is all of the churches. Most of France is Catholic, and this was a little Catholic priest that was in one of the towns that I went. But you can ride into the towns and find beautiful churches like this, and most of them are open. So you can go to the church, make a donation, say a prayer, just see it. It's really, really quite spectacular. And most of them are similar to this. It's a Gothic style, and you'll see a lot of paint or windows in them that are colored windows with stories of the Bible on them. And then when I got to Samir, the very first day we got there was a vintage bike ride. So all of these bikes in this parade, and there were hundreds of people in it. All of these bikes are vintage bikes. And I always love these bikes like this one that they ride. This is a delightful lady, I thought, with her flowers. And so they would take their vintage bike and decorate it, and some of them had kids on it. As you can see, this is a husband and wife riding down the street. Everybody's having a good time. And then after that, you can go buy food, but all of these are vintage bikes. And then after that, they have different bike rides for the next week. So they go out in different areas and they block off the roads so that you can ride your bikes on different trails. Each day is a different place to go. So now, after I stayed down in the one you saw on the Loire River, I wanted to find another one. And when I had camped in this campground a couple of weeks earlier, they had these little houses. This is a tiny house. I had 4 rooms in it: kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, and a little dining room. And they were $200. And so I went back up to ask them, and it was after the July the 1st. And I asked them how much they were, and they said $400. And they said, because holidays in Europe start July 1 and go through August. So those are almost times you don't want to travel too much because that's when they travel and do their vacations. They said, well, July 1, it went to $400. Well, I was there like on the 2nd of July. I said, if you could give me one of those for $200, I'd take it. And she gave it to me. She called to get permission and gave me the place for $200. So I took it for a week, and you can see my little bike there. And so every day I would ride along and then go out and talk to my little tourist lady to know where to go. And as I would ride down the alley and down the campground, there would be some people across the street from me, and they would all go, bonsoir, and I'd go, bonsoir. They thought I was French. I thought they were French. So this went on for about 3 or 4 days. And finally, one day I went out to take a picture of my little cabin here, and a lady from across the street came over. She said, well, let me take your picture in it. I go, you speak English? Because a lot of the French people don't speak English. I said, you speak English? She said, we're all from the Netherlands, which told me that they all spoke English, because if there's a country that speaks more English than any of them, it's the Netherlands. Almost everybody you talk to will speak English to you, or if somebody doesn't, their neighbor person next to them will speak English. And so I couldn't even believe it. And I had traveled quite a bit in the Netherlands several times, so I knew a lot about them. And so every night they would invite me over, and they'd speak in English. So there was about 8 of them. I'll show you their picture in just a second. But this was my last stop before I went to the Netherlands to stay for about 2 more weeks. I had been in France for 5 weeks, and then I was going to go to the Netherlands and stay with some friends for a couple of weeks. So I began working on trying to get my bike and my trailer to the Netherlands. And so I had to go through France, then into Belgium, and then up to up above Amsterdam, about an hour to a place called Alkmaar. Anyway, so I would go down to the train station every day, and I can't remember which one spoke English, but the other one didn't speak very good English, but they'd go to the back and get, both of them would come to help me. And so one day I went down to see if I could get my bike down the elevator, if I could get it and the trailer down and then over onto the dock that I'd have to be. And you never know until about 15 minutes before what platform you're going to be on. So anyway, they were so cute, and I told them how cute they were. And so I went down about almost every day for 3 or 4 days, and I couldn't take a direct train to Amsterdam because they were the fast trains. So I ended up having to take 7 trains. I had to get my bikes on and off 7 trains. So I thought, oh, this is my little Netherlands friend saying goodbye to me. And then an interesting story is the guy on the right-hand side with the pink or the kind of the reddish shirt on, and his daughter is in front of me. And basically what they were is all of them were divorced, and they wanted to do things with their kids. So they would come together, they put this program together, and then they would all come, and each one of them had their own tents, and the kids would go play in the day, and then they would talk to each other. And then at night we'd all get together. And like I said, for the last 3 or 4 nights, they would speak in English so that I would know what they were talking about, and they included me. So it was a marvelous experience. The fellow that was waving with that pink shirt, anyway, he came to me and he said, I want to bring my daughter to America, and I want to show her something before she gets too old and doesn't want to come. Where should I take her? And I said, what do you want to see? And he said, we love nature. I said, well, then you fly to Salt Lake. You can stay with me for a couple of days. And then I helped him route his path there down to the Grand Canyon, down through Moab, down through Monument Valley, and then up through the Zions and Bryce and Capitol Reef. And so they went to all of the national parks, the 5 national parks, and then they came up and went over to Vernal and then went on to Yellowstone. So it was a 3-week trip, and he stayed here 2 or 3 times. Anyway, it was such a delight, and I still write to him. I feel like he's my brother in the Netherlands. And when I went back again, I went to see them. Now, remember the couple that went to the chateau with me? I want to tell you that I stayed with just that one night, and we took them out to dinner. When we got to dinner, I said to them, if you want to come to America, I will show you America. So I'd been with them 24 hours, and then they dropped me off at the campground. And I get an email in about 2 weeks. We want to come to America and see America for 19 days. And so they came over after Ronnie. This guy's name is Ronnie, but Ronnie was here in June. And then my friends came in August. And so I had both of them. And so I went down, I took them, I said to them, I can take you to the Grand Canyon. I drive you and all of that. But if you want to go to Yellowstone, you'll need to rent a car. And so I get a note. I get a note back. We don't want to go to Yellowstone. We only want to see where John Wayne made his movies. And so I took them to Moab for 3 days. And there's when you go up the Colorado River, there's a lodge up there that has a museum of John Wayne and all of the movies there. So we stayed there. Then I wrote back to him. I says, you want to stay in hotels or you want to camp? We want to camp. So I thought, well, you got the perfect person in the United States to camp with. So anyway, I had a van. So they brought their camping gear, and I actually slept in my van. And we took off, went to Moab for 3 days. Then we went to Monument Valley. And I'm from Monticello. So I showed them all up in the mountains and around there. And then we stayed in Monument Valley for 3 days. And after the third day, they wanted to stay in a hogan. So we arranged for a hogan, and we had fry bread and mutton stew. And I knew some Indians down there, and we just had a delightful time. And then we went on to Grand Canyon, the north rim of the Grand Canyon, then came back and saw, we saw Canyonlands Arches. We saw all of the parks, then came home, and that was 19 days. So we had such a good time with them. And then, like I said, Ronnie had came earlier that time with his daughter. So that was a really special time for us. Now, I thought you'd like to see what happens is you wait at the train station with your stuff, and then they will tell you which cars will take a bike. So then you have to rush to the car and then get the bike up on, and then get the trailer on. So I met lots of nice people helping me get my bike on. But this is basically what you look like when you get onto the train, and then you ride to the next place. So Vicki, let me just do this. I want to stop here for a minute. I've got another piece that I want to share with you, but I want to open it up for any questions. If you'd like to ask me any questions, this would be a good time. And maybe we can start with Vicki for the first question. Are you there, Vicki? Hello? Let me just stop sharing. Is anybody on the other end? Can I hear anybody?
Yeah, we're all here. So maybe Vicki is muted here for a sec. Anybody have any questions, and you want to either put them in the chat room, or you can unmute yourself and just ask.
Shall I stop sharing, and then you can see me?
Yes, we could see you. Yeah.
If I can, or can you switch to me? Come on.
Yeah, we can all hear you. We can see you.
Any questions? Is there anybody out there? Nobody?
There's a question.
One question was, did you rent your bike?
No, I actually bought it over here. It was an electric bike, and then I flew it over there, but I had to have 2 different batteries with me. So that was, and they're kind of heavy. So I had to put that in my but I had to have my tent and everything. And for me, I was 72 when I did this, which was 5 years ago. I'm 77 now. So you can see my sleeping bag on the front. And so I actually left it in Europe and gave it away. So. Any other
How many
questions?
flat tires did you have?
Never had a flat tire.
Flaps?
Not one. Not on the trailer or not on the bike. Thank goodness. So I tried to practice that before I went, but and absolutely in Europe they have a whole set of maps all over Europe of trails that you can take on your bike. And I went back to the Netherlands and stayed there for 2 weeks. And so I stayed with my friends and they would say to me, okay, Diane, I'd say I want to go somewhere for 3 days. So I'd rent a place through Airbnb, and then I would ride my bike to there and then stay and see that area. And I did that 2 or 3 times before I went home. So I want to
I'm sorry, Diane, did you say you bought your bike or rented the bike?
I actually bought it in Utah and shipped it over.
Even though, is it an e-bike?
It's an e-bike, but I mean, I guess I probably could have bought it over there, but we shipped all of our bikes over. It cost me about $250 to ship it over.
So you can ship it. I didn't know you could ship an e-bike. I didn't know they'd let the battery go across.
Well, I guess we did. It went in the box. So yeah,
okay.
It went somehow, but I think it might've gone by ship, not by air. So.
Okay.
All right. I think it took 6 weeks for the bikes to get over there. So we had to ship them early, but it was quite a project, to be honest with you, to try to figure out, what to take, how to take it, try not to take too much. I was a little handicapped in the fact that I was a little bit older. So swinging my leg over a men's bike is a little more difficult. So I couldn't put a lot on the back. So I found this little trailer that I bought and hooked it on, and anyway, it works good, but I would try to go with a little less than I went with. So.
And you left the bike and trailer in Europe?
I brought the trailer home. That was because it's like a suitcase. But the bike, I kept trying to ship it over or fly it over, or finally I gave up. And then what happened is I was going to go back and get it, and then COVID came. So where I was storing it with my friends, I wrote and told them just give it away. So they gave it away to somebody. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
Diane, I have a question. This is Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi. So what items did you find that you didn't need, and what items do you wish that you would have had with you?
Wow, that's a tough one, because I ended up trying to buy everything really light. I think I paid like $300 for a down sleeping bag. And then I paid a couple of $100 for a light tent. And I had a CPAP machine, so I had to put that on. Mostly, I mean, then you got your clothes and your shoes, and I just never swimming suit, and it was way too much. So when I went to the French couple I told you that drew a house about my thing, I took and gave them some of the stuff I could possibly get rid of, but I still had too much stuff. And that was one of the problems too, because a lot of the others could carry it, they were just younger. The other men that were there were 40 and 35, and I was 72. So I'm kind of glad I left the trip, because it was harder than some of it was harder than I thought, and went up hills, and then I'd have trouble with my bike. And anyway, it was a challenge. And then it was really, really, really hot. It was up in the 90s. And when you're biking, we were biking 25 miles a day. It really takes a lot out of you. So if it would have been all flat, I'd have been fine. But when I finally decided to leave the group, it was nice because I could stay in Samir, that one place, and there was a lot to see. Didn't you like the mushrooms? Could you believe that, the mushroom places? So
right.
Now, what do I wish? You always wish you have more stuff, able to take more, but basically I made it fine. So.
Right. So did you get rained on a lot? Did you have any?
We didn't get rained. We got rained on a little bit, but not a lot. It wasn't bad. I stayed with the group for 2 weeks, I guess. And my real challenge was, remember when I told you I had to take 7 different trains to get to Alkmaar, to Amsterdam? Well, I had to go through Paris, and the problem with Paris, I was alone, so I didn't have anybody to, pave the way for me. And you can go down the bus routes and get by pretty good, but it was really busy when I went through. And there's 5 train stations, so you come into one train station, and then you got to find your way to another train station. So really, the key for me was to have the GPS on my phone, especially when I rented cars and drove to the castles. I could have never done that without a GPS. You know, especially if you're driving by yourself and it goes, go around this circle. I mean, you're going around, they have a ton of roundabouts.
Mm-hmm.
The third exit, take the second exit, take the first exit. Yeah, I don't know how you could ever map that out. So.
Mm-hmm. So we saw at the beginning when you guys were camping, how much camping did you do after that?
I didn't, well, at first when I left the group, I stayed in the campground and I had met there was a doctor next to me from Great Britain, and there was another family from Great Britain that I had met. And the thing that's beautiful about the campground, they have fabulous campgrounds, and with a swimming pool. The swimming pool had a restaurant on it. That's where I got some of those meals. And then you could see the castle. And then there was even some French kids that tried to teach me French. So if you're alone, you're pretty open. And some people say, oh, you'd never do that alone. But, you know, you have to go back and say, you know, Diane traveled for 40 years really by myself. If I didn't talk to people, I didn't have anybody to talk to. And the other thing too is I was a tour guide to China for 12 years and to Machu Picchu and South Africa and Europe. So traveling alone is not a big deal to me. You just talk to people, and 99.99% of people are willing to help you and do things. They'll give you stuff. I couldn't believe how many people helped me get on and off these the trains that I had to have help, though. I couldn't get my bike on and then go back and get the wagon on and everything. So I had a lot of help, but you just ask people and they're so willing to help. So.
You said you had trying to get to Amsterdam, you had to go back through Paris. Were you able to take the bike on the metro?
No, I could not take it on the metro. What I ended up doing is actually, and I had to ride, hang on a second. I had to ride the bike. I would try to stay in the bus lanes because they would let bikes go in the bus lanes. So I didn't have to go out on the traffic part. The bus lanes were just on the right-hand side, like we have bike lanes now. And so, but you still had to be careful. And actually one lady went by and knocked my little trailer over. It didn't hurt anything, but I literally had to go about 4 miles with the trailer and the bike in Paris. And that was probably my most traumatic time because I trying to find your way and get there. Maybe I had 2 hours and had to get off and then get on and ride it over. And a lot of it I walked, to be honest with you, because and there was tons and tons of people in Amsterdam, or not in Amsterdam, in Paris at the time. So.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions that we have right now, but and we have about 30 minutes left.
Okay, I still have a little piece to show you. So I left and went to the Netherlands, and the Netherlands is such a small country, but nobody rides as many bikes as they do in the Netherlands. There's probably 2 bikes per capita in the Netherlands, and they all ride them all the time, which is really cool. And they're not the bend over kind. They sit up on their bike and ride. But this is I stayed about an hour north of Amsterdam. So I had to go into Amsterdam, or I went to Haarlem, which is near Amsterdam, and then went up to a place called Alkmaar, which is probably 30,000 people there, at least. So they have the biggest cheese market in the world there. So, and I don't think it's all cheeses. I think they have more it's more of a show than anything, but it's still a neat show. So this is the little gal, the with her wooden shoes. And by the way, when I've been to Amsterdam, I've only seen a plumber that really wears wooden shoes. So that's all. But here's the cheese market. And what they do is they have, can you see the 2 guys in the middle with the straps on them? Anyway, they take these, and I think they're like 10 pounds a piece. So you got 80 pounds or more there. And they kind of do, I had a video for you, but I can't show you the video. They kind of bounce along as they do the cheese thing, as they go back. And what they're doing is taking it up. These people are checking it. And so they'll take one and take a sample out of it and check it and make sure it's good. So I guess it is cheese. I'm not sure. I think it is real cheese, and then they take it back and put it in a cooler. But these guys are walking. You can kind of see how they're bouncing. There's a cadence that they do with it as they go. And then they put it on the scales and weigh the cheeses and see how much weight it is. And then they take the cheese back, and then they sell the cheese to the market people. And this guy is taking some of the cheese to his market so he can sell that. So basically, that's my presentation. I wanted to share with you, if you're interested in getting any more or even signing up, Vicki asked me if some of you want to follow my trip. I just finished a 3-month trip to Canada. I bought a van with a toilet in it a year ago. It's a Mercedes, it's not a Mercedes, it's a Ford Transit. It's about 22 feet long and about 10 feet high, but it has a bed, it has a kitchen, it has a toilet. So it's everything I need to live. And so I decided to go back. They have rallies with the vans that I have. It's a Pleasure Way van. And so they had a rally in New Brunswick, and then 29 of the vans went on to Newfoundland, which is the furthest island you can go to in Canada. So I left in the middle of May, went up to Billings, then on to Michigan, and then across to Canada. And then I was traveling pretty much by myself. A friend of mine traveled with me up to that point, and then she had to go back, and anyway, she needed to go faster than I, so I stayed in Ottawa, which is their capital, like Washington, D.C. I stayed there for a week, and I went to see all their parliament buildings and went to bike rides and on the river. It's a beautiful town. Then I went to Montreal and then on to Quebec. Quebec, in my opinion, in the United States is the most European town. So if you ever get a chance to go to Quebec, take them up on it. It's a very interesting city. And then I went on to St. John's in Newfoundland, or not Newfoundland, in New Brunswick. And there were 85 vans that met there. And then after that, 29 of us crossed in a ferry, 5 hours ferry ride overnight. And we went on to Newfoundland and traveled together for, well, during the day, they would just tell you where to be at night, and then you could go wherever you wanted to go. So we traveled there for 3 weeks, and then came back. I came down into Canada where Roosevelt had a summer home, then on into Maine. I was there about a week, and Boston for a week, then Detroit, and then came and kind of followed the Mormon Trail home. So I just finished that, and a lot of people said, oh, send me pictures. And I am doing a blog with my travels, but I'm leaving in 2 weeks from today to fly to Argentina. I'll be in Argentina for 2 weeks and then catch a cruise that will take me to Antarctica and then come back to Chile. And then I'm going to travel in kind of a remote area of Chile for 2 weeks. So if anybody would like to sign up on my newsletter, we went in and made this so you can go and subscribe to the newsletter. It's the site is roughingiteasy.com. So if you want to jot that down, or any of you can, I'll go to the next one. And so I just put thank you for watching. This is a piece of the cheese that they let me hold. But if you have any questions, my email is dianthomas@mac.com, and I spell it without an E, D-I-A-N. And the website is Roughing It Easy. And then YouTube, if you want to see, I probably have 20 or 30, we'll be putting up more this year. Just go to YouTube and put my name, Dian Thomas, in the address bar, or where you do it to find out what you want. And you'll see I have a channel there, and then you can see. So if you want to see the Carson Show again, or want to show it to somebody, or any of these, maybe you can take a picture of that, jot that down. I'll leave that up, and I appreciate all of you coming. It's been a little bit weird to just talk to the screen and not know where you're doing. And I know that you're out there, and I appreciate you coming, and it's been fun for me to put this together and kind of relive it again. So Vicki, thank you. And
Yeah,
any other questions?
you had us captured the entire time.
Oh, good. I didn't want it to be a travel log because I think those are boring. But to me, if you can travel and meet people and see their stories, and especially like that little French couple that took me in overnight, you know, and then came here for 19 days. I still write to them probably once a month. They're like my family, and they've invited me to go back and go to the Pyrenees, which is down the bottom part of France, which is the Alps of France. They're next to Italy or Spain, actually, next to Spain. So probably this next year, next summer, I'll try to go. I will want to go over there and see them and go on a trip. They just wrote and told me they got a van, and I'm welcome to come and camp with them. And so I guess the point, when I was a tour guide to China, and I was there for 12 years, I did 16 trips to China. I always tried to get my customers to say hello. And I say ni hao. Ni hao is hello in Chinese, ni hao. And just see what comes back. And one guy came back just beaming. He said, I said to these kids, ni hao. And they go, hello, grandpa. He was a grandpa. And he was thrilled to death. So my point being is talk to the people around you. I mean, my biggest question, if I can give you one that I always ask, and that is, where are you from? Because then that gives you somewhere to start to ask them questions. And for me, I told you I didn't read really well. For me, travel was a way to learn, and I love learning about people. So even people that have an accent, I always say, where are you from? And then I'll say to them, I hope I didn't offend you, but I love to travel, and I just love to learn about the countries around the world. And they're from Africa. A lot of them are from Africa now. So anyway, if you'd like to join my newsletter, let's go back to the one just before that. Oh, well, let's see, it's this one right here. Go to Roughing It Easy and then put subscribe and put your email in there. Now, if you do it today or tomorrow, you may have to go into your spam and just confirm it, because I did it and my webmaster's trying to get that fixed. But if you wait 3 or 4 days, she'll have that fixed. So she had to do pickles today and couldn't get that done. So anyway, thank you. I hope, I'd love, if you liked it, take my email down and drop me a note. I'd love to hear about what you liked about it. And I didn't want it to be just drive here, drive there, and see all the big sites, but let you in on what the people are like. So
I wanted to let you guys know that I met Diane in Southern California, and she always just goes and talks to everybody. She would go out for a drive, go talk to the people she sees working on the farm, and come back with a whole case of their product. It was amazing. People just open up to her, and she just gets to know everybody.
Well, if you'll smile and be warm and interested in them, what Vicki was telling you is, I've done this before, but in the agriculture part of California, I love to go there. And so I get out my money and I go over there and I said, can I buy a head of cauliflower? And the guy said, no. And I knew this because from other experiences. He picks up a whole box of cauliflower, 12 heads, and puts them up by my van. He said, they're over there by the van. I won't take any money. I don't think they can take money for it. So, but they'll give you a sample. We got some lettuce free. And one time I had peppers. They let me buy the strawberries, but it's just so fun to go out and meet the people and just be interested in them. So anyway, have a wonderful day. Thanks for coming. And
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Oh, you're welcome. Send me an email. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane.
See ya.